This is the United States of America, one of the most powerful empires in all of human history. If we look at the most dominant empires throughout time, none have been as geographically distant from the rest of the world as America, and yet, despite that distance, no empire has ever held as much global influence and control as the United States. Since 1890, America has remained the world's #1 economy. Even though it holds just 5% of the world's population, the US controls around 30% of global wealth and resources. Nearly 20% of all the world's manufacturing takes place within the United States. And that's not all. The US accounts for about 40% of total global military spending. Now, it's important to mention that we're neither pro-America nor anti-America. The purpose of this video is simply to present the facts neutrally so that people can truly understand the reality behind America's rise. Among the many factors that helped make America a global superpower, one of the biggest was its geography. North America's geography is so naturally gifted that it was almost inevitable. Whichever civilization flourished here was destined to become a world superpower. And let me explain why I say that. The biggest geographical factor that turned America into a world superpower is its river system, and most importantly, the Mississippi River. Starting from Lake Itasca and flowing all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi is North America's second longest and the world's fourth longest river. Around 30 other rivers and lakes across the US are connected to this one massive river. Even North America's largest river, the Missouri River, joins it at one point. This single river has played a huge role in making the US a global power. The waters of the Mississippi connect 31 American states, and if you measure the entire connected river system, its total length comes to around 4,000 kilometers. The real specialty of this river isn't just its size, it's that it's completely navigable. That means its flow and width are ideal for all kinds of ships. A ship entering the US from the Gulf of Mexico can travel all the way up to the northern border without any obstruction. Rivers like these are crucial for generating economic activity, because compared to rail or road transport, moving goods by river is far easier and cheaper. In fact, water transport can be 10 to 30 times cheaper than land transport. That's why factories and agricultural farms located along the Mississippi River find it extremely easy and affordable to export their goods to the rest of the world. Thanks to this one river, around 1.2 million jobs have been created in this entire region. Since so many other rivers are connected to the Mississippi, countless American cities automatically become port cities, meaning their goods can easily be shipped to global markets via the Mississippi River. And most importantly, this incredible river system gives America the world's largest and most fertile irrigated land. On the western side, the hot and dry climate makes it perfect for growing wheat, while the eastern side's humidity is ideal for growing corn and soybeans. That's why the US is the world's largest producer of corn, the second largest producer of soybeans, and the fourth largest producer of wheat. About 92% of America's agricultural exports exist because of the Mississippi River, and all these exports are transported easily to the rest of the world through this river. Every year, the Mississippi generates $345 billion in trade and carries more than 630 million tons of cargo through its shipping routes. There's only one other river in the world that can compare: China's Yangtze River, the world's third longest. Around 40% of China's GDP depends on this single river. China's economic rise and industrial boom are heavily tied to it, as over 2.6 billion tons of goods pass through the Yangtze every year. By now, you can understand just how critical rivers are for a nation's economic development, because the world's first and second largest economies both rely heavily on their river systems. There's another geographic feature just as important for a country's progress, and that's its coastline. The United States has a coastline stretching over 20,000 kilometers, the 8th longest in the world. That's nearly 5 times longer than the entire African continent's effective coastline, since Africa's includes many small islands and blocked routes that limit direct access. And then, America has another major advantage. Its coastlines touch both the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. Because of this, it has a natural trade route with Asia on one side and Europe and Africa on the other. The US doesn't have to pay any fees or taxes to other countries in order to trade across these oceans. And this is exactly where America's geographic advantage makes it unique from every other superpower in history. If we zoom out and look at the map, America is actually very far away from the rest of the world, surrounded by oceans on both sides. On the eastern side, separating it from Europe and Africa, lies the 5,000-kilometer-wide Atlantic Ocean, and on the western side, between America and Asia, stretches the massive 10,000-kilometer-wide Pacific Ocean. Being so far from the rest of the world means that for any country, launching a direct attack on America is almost impossible. Attacking across the ocean is one of the hardest military operations to pull off. A small example of that, in 1940, after conquering Central Europe, Germany planned to invade the UK, but later cancelled the plan because even crossing the narrow 33-kilometer English Channel was too difficult for the German army. Now imagine America, thousands of kilometers away from any major power. That's why no country has ever managed to directly attack US soil. The only exception was during World War II, when Japan reached America's Pacific Fleet and attacked Pearl Harbor. But apart from that, for over 200 years, the US has remained safe from any foreign invasion. Yes, today some countries like North Korea and Russia have developed missiles and weapon systems capable of targeting the US. But we've already made a full video about North Korea that you can watch on our channel. Similarly, China is now making moves into South America, and this has seriously concerned several American think tanks. Those reports show how China, through its long-term master plan, is strategically working to choke America's global influence. And since we're talking about weaknesses, it's important to mention one major vulnerability of the Mississippi River, and that's Cuba. In fact, all ships that travel through the Mississippi eventually pass through the Gulf of Mexico. From there, they enter the Atlantic Ocean. Right in this route lies Cuba, and if Cuba ever blocked this point, it could cause a massive dent in the US economy. Of course, Cuba on its own isn't powerful enough to take such a step, but another global power could easily use it for that purpose. And something like this almost happened in the 1960s, when the Soviet Union deployed nuclear missiles and troops in Cuba. The US intervened heavily, destabilized the Cuban government, and eventually imposed strict sanctions that are still in place even after 60 years. Because the US fears that a developed and independent Cuba could either directly threaten it or be used by another world power to choke America's vital trade routes, which would directly impact the economic control that the US holds today. America also has another huge strength. It's rich in natural resources. The country has such massive reserves of oil and gas that it doesn't need to depend on any foreign nation to meet its energy requirements. Even if all OPEC countries together decided to boycott the US, it wouldn't make much difference because around 90% of America's oil and gas needs are met domestically or through imports from Canada. On top of that, the US produces so much wheat, corn, and soybeans that it hasn't faced a single food shortage in the past 100 years. It also holds the world's 5th largest gold reserves and the 4th largest iron ore reserves. So without a doubt, the vision and planning of America's founding fathers over 200 years ago played a huge role in bringing the country to where it is today. But just look at how naturally gifted America is. Even if there were no human genius or leadership, the geography itself set the foundation for a powerful nation. That's why I said earlier, it was inevitable that whichever civilization settled here would eventually become a global superpower. No doubt on a social and cultural level, America faces serious issues. Problems like violence, drugs, racism, and rising unemployment are growing. But economically, America still has a long way to go before losing its top position, because the head start its leadership created 200 years ago isn't easy to reverse. And then there are those immense geographic advantages that perhaps no other country in the world enjoys. These are all the sources we consulted while making this video. If you found this video informative, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly motivates us. We'll see you in the next video with another fascinating topic. Take care.